Gradually, Han Sen felt that it was not because Lu Bin did not have the intention to kill, but because Lu Bin's intention to kill was too strong. If there was one lamp in a room, then it would be easy to tell where the light was from. However, if the room was filled with lamps, there was little point in figuring out the source of the light. Because Lu Bin's intention to kill was off the chart, his opponent could no longer discern his intention because it was everywhere. Initially, Han Sen was trying to figure out the source of Lu Bin's intention to kill, but he soon gave up. Under such scorching murderous intent, there was no point to figure out anything, because it would not make a difference. When fighting someone like this, there was only one way to win. May the brave one live. Boom! Han Sen no longer stepped back, but made a kick himself, his leg hitting Lu Bin's and making a loud sound. Lu Bin's leg skills were practical, which meant the skills not that unusual. Having learned Panorama, which was an encyclopedia of all kinds of commonly seen skills, Han Sen felt it was easy to mimic Lu Bin's killer kicks. In fact, many people could easily imitate the skills, but the true difficulty was how to use it well. Depending on one's capability and mentality, the same leg skills were different when used by different people. It was especially true when it came to these kicks that were designed for life and death battles. Small difference could realize in completely different result. Han Sen was someone who knew the intention to kill very well. In fact, it was what he started out with. The only thing he needed to do different was that, unlike the past when he needed to hide his inventions, he should fill himself with such intentions in this fight. Boom, boom, boom. Han Sen and Lu Bin became almost the same person, standing opposite each other. Kicking at each other in madness, they were making sounds that gave people goosebumps. Although the audience knew it was a simulated fight, they were still afraid that the two fighters' bones might be broken. This is it. Hiding back is not a soldier's way, Lu Bin yelled in excitement, his legs kicking again as swiftly as wind. Han Sen was also extremely excited. Lu Bin's style was so aggressive that Han Sen also wanted to get it all out under his influence. Killer kicks against killer kicks. Although only two persons were fighting, the audience felt there were two troops present, making them thrilled and terrified at the same time. A few faint-hearted girls could not help yelping, forgetting it was a simulated fight. Kill, 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 kill. The long legs went up and down like blades, making sounds like metal. Every exchange made the heart of the audience tremble. It was hard to imagine that it was just a simulated fight. Killer kicks. He is also using killer kicks. Wang Daqing finally realized that and could not help exclaiming. Others suddenly realized Wang Daqing was right. A soldier on warship was also using killer kicks. He was able to use killer kicks in front of Lu Bin and did not seem to fall short. Everyone suddenly had a weird expression on their faces, watching the two going at each other like lunatics. Who is a soldier on warship? Is he also a veteran? Everyone suddenly had such a doubt. They could not imagine what kind of person you must be to use killer kicks as well as Lu Bin. If he was not a veteran, how could he use killer kicks that well? Qian Hajin was dumbfounded. He just understood that Lu Bin was right. A soldier on warship was much stronger than him in fitness. Just now when they were fighting, a soldier on warship did not use all he got at all, but was trying to suppress his strength. How is that possible? How long has it been? How could he have improved his fitness by so much? Qian Hajin looked at Han Sen, feeling complicated. Kill! Lu Bin suddenly roared and jumped up, his leg hitting at Han Sen like an axe. 7 kill. Wang Daqing's eyes suddenly lit up. The majority of killer kicks was common skills, so the focus was on mentality rather than techniques. Only 7 kicks of killer kicks were exceptions, which were called 7 kill by Lu Bin. The 7 kicks were let the last moves in killer kicks. One must jump in the air to make 7 consecutive high kicks from above. It was so difficult that it was even rare among leg skills designed for evolvers. It was difficult for anyone to make 7 kicks in one jump, let alone make all 7 kicks fierce and swift. Even many top evolvers could not master 7 kill. The 7 kicks were almost finished in one moment without any pause. One should manage to kick 7 times in one breath. It was extremely pleasing to look at, like a battle axe splitting the earth. For the viewers, it was even hard to imagine that 7 kicks had been made when the fighter had already landed. It was so smooth that it looked like one hard kick. Boom! Han Sen was unable to block 7 kill and fell back immediately. His health went down significantly, almost reaching the bottom instantaneously. Victory! Wang Daqing was excited, and others started to cheer already. However, the cheers only lasted a second. A soldier on worship was already on the ground, suddenly stood up. His health bar was almost empty, with only a hair left. The number was down to 2%. Great leg skills. What's the name of it?
Han Sen asked Lu Bin seriously.
7 kill. Lu Bin laughed and said, "This is my very best work. It is impressive that you could block 6 kicks. 7 kill, noted." Han Sen repeated the name of the skill and his eyes suddenly became sharp. Staring at Lu Bin, he said slowly, "Let's do this one more time." "As you wish." Lu Bin could no longer resist the murderous urge. He dashed and jumped up with no hesitation, kicking at Han Sen as if his leg was the battle axe that split heaven and earth. Han Sen did not move, his eyes fixed on Lu Bin. When the kick was about to fall on his head, Han Sen suddenly moved. A magnificent step. Using Sparticle, Han Sen made an incredibly fast step. In the meantime, his body was also moving subtly, making him swing like a lotus leaf in the autumn wind. Swoosh! Lu Bin's leg came down and turned into 7 kicks. However, all of them hit the air, while none hit Han Sen, who was swinging. Lu Bin landed, with his eyes fixed on Han Sen incredulously. 7 kill! Han Sen exclaimed, jumping up like Lu Bin did and kicked at his opponent. Lu Bin also roared, his kicks going up from the ground, meeting Han Sen's kicks in the air, making sonic booms. Boom! The strength of the kicks from above was too strong for even Lu Bin, the inventor of 7 kill. After taking 5 takes, Lu Bin could hardly lift his legs. The stubbornness of the veteran made him raise his arms, trying to block the 2 last kicks with his teeth gritted. Boom boom! With 2 loud sounds, Han Sen's last 2 kicks were also blocked by Lu Bin. However, Lu Bin's arms were broken in the process and fell limp. At this point, Han Sen was about to land. Lu Bin, who knew everything about 7 kill, knew it was the perfect moment for a comeback. Han Sen had used up all his force and had not prepared a new move. In addition, he was in the air, so there was no way he could fight back. Disregarding his broken arms, Lu Bin and used the other one to kick at Han Sen as hard as possible. Boom! However, before Lu Bin's kick was made, Han Sen, who was in the air, made another kick, hitting right at Lu Bin's chest, making Lu Bin fall back immediately with an incredulous look on his face. The 8th kick! Gasped Wang Daqing. The reason 7 kill was called that was because after 7 kicks, one's force would be used up and there would be nothing left to make the 8th kick. However, a soldier on warship kicked the 8th times in the air, which was unbelievable. Not only Wang Daqing, but all those who had seen and learned 7 kill knew it was impossible to make the 8th kick, because there was no way for one to leverage on anything in the air. However, a soldier on warship accomplished that, which was beyond imagination. Han Sen landed and kicked at Lu Bin, who had already lost balance, without pause. Side kick, high kick, crossing kick, leg whipping. Han Sen's leg skills were dazzling, with killer kicks fully integrated in his moves. Lu Bin did not have any chance to fight back until he was eliminated. Although Lu Bin was trying his best to find an opportunity, Han Sen was a master in holding back, so he did not give Lu Bin any chance to make a comeback. The stands were silent. No one could believe that Lu Bin was beaten with killer kicks and that the 8th kick was possible. Who is he? Everyone was staring at a soldier on warship, who gradually faded away and left the gladiator platform. The audience could hardly contain themselves. They were either Lu Bin's friends or his students, so they all knew how hard 7 kill were. Many people could not even accomplish 7 kill, let alone the unbelievable 8th kill. Captain, who is that person? Is he one of your students? Wang Daqing ran to Lu Bin and asked. He could not imagine someone could use 7 kill like that, unless he was taught by Lu Bin himself. I can only even make 7 kicks myself, so how can I possibly teach that kind of student? Lu said and asked, Did you record the fight just now? Yes. Wang Daqing nodded and said quickly. It was rare that Lu Bin would participate in a fight himself, so his friends got the video down. Many students of Ares Martial Hall also recorded the fight. Initially, they intended to learn from it and did not expect to be able to record such a mind-shattering fight. Play it. The 8th kick after 7 kill. I wonder myself how he achieved that. Lu Bin said. Everyone was dazed. Even Lu Bin, the inventor of 7 kill, did not understand how a soldier on warship made the 8th kick. The video was played again and again. They found that after the 7th kick, the soldier indeed had used up his force. However, after that, he had leveraged on the air and made another kick, which was unbelievable to watch. Lu Bin himself watched repeatedly, but still failed to understand how the soldier leveraged on the air. Some attention-seeking audience uploaded the video to the Skynet and named it Killer Kicks, 8 kill against 7 kill, attracting a lot of people who had practiced killer kicks. Initially, they all thought it was some kind of a bluff, because everyone who had practiced 7 kill knew it was impossible to make the 8th kick, which was why 8 kill was out of the question. However, after watching the video of the fight, many people became shocked as someone had really made the 8th kick, beating the inventor of 7 kill, Lu Bin. The video soon became popular, especially in the military. The soldiers and officers who had practiced 7 kill were all in awe. Many had tried to make the 7th kick as well, but they all failed with no exception. 7 kill was the limit, and after finishing that, it was impossible to make the 8th kick. Unless one had already become a surpasser and could ignore the limits of human body, it was simply impossible for one to make the 8th kick no matter how strong one's fitness was. In fact, it was normal to fail at the 8th kick, but abnormal to succeed. The reason that Han Sen could make the 8th kick was not that he was better at 7 kill than Lu Bin. In fact, in terms of 7 kill, Han Sen was still weaker. The reason was simply that Han Sen had studied 7 twists of the chins, which allowed one to leverage on the air for 7 times, if one practiced it well. Han Sen had seen 7 twists used by Qin Zichen and Zhu Ting, and was very interested in that martial arts. However, Han Sen did not find anything similar after a lot of research. In the end, he found a way to leverage on the air briefly. However, that cannot be compared to 7 twists at all. Han Sen was only able to accomplish that based on his understanding of 7 twists, which was his limit already. In fact, Han Sen really wanted to learn 7 twists, but the family secret like this was so hard to get his hands on. Plus, Han Sen had never had the opportunity. At the same time, on a warship, a few soldiers in the cookhouse were watching the video of Lu Bin's fight together. A fat soldier saw the 8th kick from a soldier on warship and exclaimed, "That is impossible. How could this be?" After traveling through half of the Alliance in spaceship, Han Sen arrived at Galaxy Dongi. When he saw Daphne at a space harbor, Han Sen was dazed. Initially, Han Sen believed that since even a soldier of its cookhouse was a major, Daphne should at least be an advanced warship, if not the best in the Alliance. However, the Daphne he saw was more like a small escort ship. Although it looks advanced, it did not look like the main ship shows you call the loop on all lump the shabby no matter what. In addition, Han Sen had never heard that a warship would be docked at a civil harbor. In conclusion, Daphne was a weird spaceship. However, Han Sen did not have any choice but to report to Daphne. The interior space of Daphne was indeed luxurious, equipped with lots of device that Han Sen did not recognize. Only by the warframes assigned to the soldiers on board, Han Sen knew the place was unusual. All ordinary soldiers were equipped with military super-biological warframes made by the renowned Digong. The military line was much better than the civil line. These warframes were on the same level as Silver Killer, and the performance of SKTS not even be compared with them. And these warframes were already the worst on board. The procedures for the report was very complicated. Han Sen went through a lot of tests before he get his clearance. It seemed the security level of displaced was indeed very high. After almost a day, Han Sen eventually went to the cookhouse. New soldier Han Sen is here to report to the cookhouse. Han Sen saluted to the squad leader of the cookhouse. The squad leader was around 30 years old and quite fat. He was almost as wide as he was tall. Han Sen felt that was the perfect expression to describe him. So rare that we have someone new in the cookhouse. The fat squad leader looked Han Sen up and down and smiled. "Have you learned to cook before?" "I have only learned how to deal with the meat of creatures briefly at school, sir," answered Han Sen. "The cookhouse is not like other places, so you could relax a little bit. Since you are new here and have not learned how to cook, just try to make yourself useful, the fat squad leader said as he cooked. Just like that, Han Sen settled down in the cookhouse. In addition to Han Sen, there were 5 people there: fat squad leader Luo Sanxin, vice leader Lu Mingliang, dessert cook Su Gu, assistant cook Li Jin, and a handyman same as Han Sen named Cho Chung, who was there 1 year earlier than Han Sen. The entire staff of the cookhouse were easygoing. Because of what they did, they were not as uptight as other soldiers and had less training as well. However, after Han Sen reported, Daphne left the harbor and went directly to the remote galaxies, which made him quite disappointed. Almost all soldiers would be equipped with nutrition solutions that were easy to carry and store. The role of the cookhouse was more like nutritionist in this day and age. Han Sen did not have much to do every day because most of his job was computerized. If he had the time, Han Sen could even use the teleport device on the warship to enter God's sanctuary. However, since Han Sen just got there were many things he needed to learn, so he had not the time yet. After a few days of learning, Han Sen had already learned the main responsibility of Daphne. Daphne was an exploration ship. Its main job was to look for habitable planets in remote galaxies and the rulings of other species. The universe was almost infinite. The space occupied by Shura and humans were just part of the world known to people. There remained to be many unexplored galaxies. In addition, there were various species in the universe. Although at this point, humans and Shura were the 2 most prominent species, before them, there used to be other glorious civilizations. The mission of Daphne this time was to look for a remnant of crystallizer civilization. Before humans even entered the interstellar era, the crystallizers had built an empire in the universe. They used to be the master of a dozen galaxies, but they eventually became extinct for some reasons no one knew. People could only feel how great they were from the relics they left behind. When humans entered the interstellar age, crystallizers had already become a legend. Unlike humans and Shura, crystallizers were a different life form. Their whole bodies were made up of crystals, looking like giant diamonds without any limbs. However, crystallizers all had strong mental power. The superpowers often depicted in human movies, such as moving something with one's mind, that were simply a piece of cake for crystallizers. Of course, this was only the conclusion humans had arrived at after consulting the information left behind by crystallizers. Because no one had ever seen a living and breathing crystallizer, no one was certain if that kind of mental power was real. In addition to the legend about the mental power, crystallizers had a lot of treasures. For example, in their record, strong crystallizers could even control a planet and change its orbit to turn it into their warship. Of course, these were just legends. However, one thing was for sure. The memory crystal technology humor was using currently was largely generated from the study of crystallizer science. The Alliance had spared no effort in developing crystallizer ruins. Their research results were always highly confidential. For commoners, they had merely heard of the name of crystallizer. Because interstellar travel took large amounts of time, soldiers could enter God's sanctuary freely if there was no specific mission, as long as they returned on time. Especially the cookhouse, except for some special days, they actually had a quite flexible schedule and more time to enter God's sanctuary than other soldiers. Han Sen had just come back, so he should not leave immediately, given there was a lot of things that he was not familiar with. What are you looking at? After a couple of days, Han Sen had become friends with the soldiers of the cookhouse. When he was taking a break, he saw the fat squad leader holding his comlink watching a video and felt curious. What else other than the video of 8 Kill? Our fatty has a grand vision. He would love to become a fatty who could fly, Vice Squad Leader Lu Mingliang joked. What 8 Kill? Han Sen glanced at the video and couldn't help opening his mouth, because the video the fat squad leader was watching was exactly the fight between Lu Bin and himself. #K-off. I just want to learn killer kicks, grunted the fat squad leader. Seeing his round body and short legs, Han Sen could not imagine what it would look like if fat squad leader jumped in the air to make 7 kicks. Han Sen had not been to the warship for long, so he had not met the captain yet. Taking the document to the captain's cabin, Han Sen had been wondering who it was. In order to become a captain of such a high-level warship, one had to be at least a general, even though this warship was not that big. This is the nutrition plan for next month, and we need the captain's signature. Han Sen came to the sanctuary's desk and showed her the document. Sure. The captain had told me about it. She's busy right now, so you can just go ahead and put the file there. The secretary checked the document and said to Han Sen. Okay, Han Sen replied, turned around, and walked to the captain's cabin with the document in his hand. He knocked on the door, but there was no one answering. Since the secretary told him to put it inside, Han Sen pushed the door open and entered the room. However, after the door was pushed open, Han Sen saw someone leaning against the desk opposite the door smiling at him. Han Sen was suddenly dumbstruck and then became overjoyed. He shut the door close, threw the document away, dashed to the person, and held her tightly in his arms. Oh my God! I am not dreaming, right? How? Why are you here? Han Sen was so excited that he did not even know what he was talking about. He did not imagine that he would meet Ji Yanran at this place. Ji Yanran, who was wearing white captain's suit, was standing right there, gorgeous as always, but more handsome than when she was a student.
I'm sorry.
I brought you here without your consent, and I could only arrange for you to become a soldier in the cookhouse. However, this is everything I could do. Although I know it's not fair to you, I could not stand another day without you being close to me. I am selfish and wanton, but would you forgive me? Ji Yanran threw her arms around Han Sen's neck and hung herself on him like a koala bear, her tone full of guilt and love. I love that you are selfish and wanton. Han Sen quickly kissed her on the lips and spanked her ass a little. Ji Yanran's face became pink. Embarrassed, she said, "Don't mess around. There is a surveillance camera here." No way. There is a surveillance camera in the captain's cabin?
Han Sen sighed incredulously.
Ji Yanran blinked and said, Daphne is warship that carries out exploration missions. Even as the captain, I do not have the absolute power. In fact, I am only in a supportive role. Those who are really in charge are the experts and scholars on crystallizer civilization. So, you're just a driver of a flying bus? Han Sen said, not letting Ji Yanran go. She did not mind people watching. He did not care because it was more than natural for him to kiss and hug his wife. Ji Yanran curled her lips and said, that's one way to put it. My main mission is to send the scholars and experts to their destination, provide them with staff members and help. When it comes to excavation and fieldwork, it is completely up to the experts. Ji Yanran paused and said apologetically, I know it is not fair for you to be just a cookhouse soldier, but the exploration of crystallizer ruins is crucial to the Alliance and the clearance level is very high. I did everything I could to put you here. What's so important about the crystallizer ruins that the Alliance puts so much effort on them?
Han Sen asked curiously.
You should have heard that the mental power of crystallizers is so powerful that they could control objects with their mind? Ji Yanran thought about it and said, I've heard something about it. Han Sen asked curiously again, is that all true? Maybe, I don't know for sure. But one thing was certain, crystallizers have many crystal technologies. The most commonly seen is a sort of memory crystal. Humans with strong mental power could put their memory inside the memory crystal and read from it. That is much more advanced than our AI, Ji Yanran explained. That is very impressive. What else is there? Han Sen was very interested. There are many things like that, but most of them require mental power to operate. Human had much weaker mental power compared to crystallizer. Even we get our hands on some memory crystals, we could only read some fragments from it. Even so, we have already been able to improve our memory chips significantly. If we could figure out the majority of the crystallizer civilization, our science and technology would very likely to have another huge leap. Ji Yanran then picked up a crystal the size of a fist and shoved it in Han Sen's hand. Put this on your forehead. See if you could feel anything. This is from the crystallizers? Han Sen took the crystal and looked at it carefully. It was like a purple gemstone of a random shape. There did not seem to be anything special about it. Yes. Ji Yanran smiled and nodded. Han Sen knew that Ji Yanran would never harm himself, so he put the crystal on his forehead, ready to perceive anything. The next second, Han Sen suddenly felt electricity was generated from the crystal and penetrated his scope, making his brain a bit numb, which scared him into taking the crystal away from his forehead. What is that? Han Sen stared at the crystal and asked. Ji Yanran smiled and said, feel it. Is there anything different? What would be different? Han Sen did not know what Ji Yanran meant. In addition to the shock, he did not feel much different, nor was he injured. Ji Yanran took a file from her desk and placed it in front of Han Senator. She turned the pages over quickly and asked Han Sen to look at the contents. After going through the entire file, she closed the file and put it back, asking, "What is the sixth word on the third line of page 13? You were so fast. How could I possibly?" As Han Sen was about to say how could he possibly remember, he suddenly had the memory of that page in his mind. He remembered clearly that the sixth word of the third line was black. How is that possible? Is it the crystal? Han Sen looked at the purple crystal in surprise. After the evolution, although his memory was enhanced, it was not this good. However, when Han Sen looked at the purple crystal again, it was already full of cracks. Han Sen moved his fingers, and the purple crystal was suddenly shattered. The fragments of the crystal fell on the floor. This kind of crystals excavated from crystallizer ruins had a special power that could enhance the functions of human brain. The effect was the best in the beginning, and then it gets weaker and weaker. However, a small part of the enhancement was permanent, which was great for the development of human brain. Ji Yanran explained. Han Sen looked at the shattered crystal on the floor, shocked. When humans were still living on planet Earth only, scientists at that time believed that human brains were only developed 10%, with lots potentials to tap into. However, with the development of science and technology, the theory had been proven absurd. Each part of human brain had its unique function, so there was no underdeveloped area at all. In order to enhance the ability of the brain must further evolve. The evolution human went through in God's sanctuary could make one's brain evolve as well. Therefore, in this day and age, people with higher degree of evolution would have a stronger brain, which made them smarter. However, compared to the evolution of the body, the evolution of the brain was significantly slower. The fact that the crystal from crystallizer civilization could accelerate the evolution of the brain was amazing. At least until this point, human had not been able to manufacture any medicine or device that could directly stimulate the brain to evolve. This technology alone showed how magnificent crystallizer civilization was. What was more puzzling was what made such an ingenious species had disappeared in history. There are many great things like this in crystallizer technologies. However, the crystallizer ruins were too dangerous, so we have not been able to get a lot from it. In addition, there are some objects from their civilization that we do not understand yet. Ji Yanran then told Han Sen more about crystallizers. These must be highly confidential. Is it okay you're telling me?
Han Sen asked Ji Yanran.
These are indeed confidential, and you do not have the clearance yet. However, you're my boyfriend and I am no selfless captain, just a woman. But don't tell anyone about these, otherwise I would be in trouble. Ji Yanran spit out her little tongue. Didn't you say there is a surveillance camera? Ha, how dare you play me? You are so done? Han Sen suddenly understood that he was played by Ji Yanran, grabbed her, held her down to the desk and spanked her hard. I did not lie to you. There is really a surveillance camera. It's just I turned it off temporarily. I know you would be so promiscuous. Trying to ignore the sensation on her ass, Ji Yanran whispered. All right, I will show you how promiscuous I could be. Han Sen suddenly pulled Ji Yanran's white captain pants down.
No.
When Han Sen left the captain's cabin, he felt very refreshed and relaxed. The thought of the captain's suit and tender skin of Ji Yanran gave Han Sen an urge to return to captain's cabin and stay there forever. However, that was quite unlikely. Ji Yanran had already told Han Sen some information about Daphne. Although Ji Yanran was the captain, she was too young and inexperienced. If it were not for her family, she would not even be recognized as the captain because she was just a rookie evolver. In addition, Daphne was a special warship. There was a professor that had the same power as Ji Yanran, so she had to obey him at times, since the main mission was to explore and research the ruins. Almost all members of the expert panel had high social status, so they always had a say in the operation of the ship. There were many things that Ji Yanran could not decide on her own. Therefore, as much as Han Sen would like to sleep until he woke up naturally every day with his girlfriend in his arm, it was not realistic. In addition, if others knew Han Sen was Ji Yanran's lover and that he was on the ship because of her, they would probably think even less of Ji Yanran, making it harder for her to stay in the management role. Han Sen knew it was not easy for Ji Yanran to get him on board, so he was unwilling to see her getting in trouble because of him. So, for the moment, he had to keep his relationship with her a secret and perform his duty as a cookhouse soldier with his head down. Fortunately, the two of them were both on Daphne. When there was no one around, they could call each other using the special comlink on board. Occasionally, they could even meet each other in secret, to which Han Sen was looking forward. Feels like a clandestine love affair. Han Sen thought to himself contentedly and started to hum a little song. Boom! Han Sen was still thinking about the romance just now. Because it was on the warship, he let his guard down completely and wasn't paying attention. As he turned around the corner, he bumped into someone immediately. Han Sen had just been through some strenuous exercise, so his legs were still limp. Not paying attention, he stepped backward immediately. Fortunately, Han Sen reacted fast, steadied himself, and did not fall on the floor. Which department do you belong to? Why are you walking around here and humming? It was a man in uniform between 20 and 30 years old. Judging from his badge, he should be a colonel. The fat squad leader was also a colonel, so this guy was likely to be some squad leader as well. However, since Han Sen did not work for him, there was no need for Han Sen to explain anything. Without even looking at the man, Han Sen simply walked over, as if he did not exist. You're lucky that I'm in a great mood, so I will just let you off the hook for the time being. Han Sen continued to walk forward joyfully. What's wrong with you? I was talking to you. Did you not hear me? Which department are you from? The man became mad and quickly grabbed Han Sen. What does it have to do with you? Han Sen frowned and said, although he was being careless, he was not walking fast. There was no way he would bump into someone directly. The main reason that the guy bumped into him was that the guy did not change his course at all after seeing him. Otherwise, with Han Sen's reflex, there was no way they would bump into each other so hard. That guy was doing it on purpose. You don't even look like a soldier. Stand straight. The man snorted. Whether the cookhouse soldiers look like soldiers, it is up to me instead of the Warframe department. Colonel Wong, please mind your own department's business. The fat squad leader suddenly appeared and said to the guy coldly, Colonel Luo, I can't even point it out when your soldier is bumping into people and humming songs. Is that what you're saying? Wang Ho stared at fat squad leader coldly. Yes, that's our hobby. Bite me. The fat squad leader's reply even surprised Han Senator Wang Ho's face suddenly turned purple as he was rendered speechless. Why are you staying here? The fat squad leader said to Han Sen and took him away. Wang Ho bristled. When the fat squad leader and Han Sen walked far, Wang Ho murmured to himself, why did Ji Yanran keep a cookhouse soldier in her office for so long? If it were not for the stupid fatty, I should have fished more information. Great job, Colonel. After returning to the cookhouse, Han Sen gave the fat squad leader a thumbs up. Great my ass. I asked you to send a nutrition plan. What took you so long? The fat squad leader said, upset. After the captain reviewed the plan, she asked me a few questions. Since I'm new here, I know nothing and gave her all the wrong answers, which was why it took so long. She even scolded me a little. After that I bumped into Colonel Wong. You are such a saver to be there on time? Han Sen had thought his excuse out for a while. Do not cross Wang Ho in the future, said the fat squad leader. Thank you, Colonel. Although Han Sen was not afraid of Wang Ho, it was a troublesome situation. He was very grateful that the fat squad leader took him away. Ji Yanran had told him that everyone on Daphne had a complicated background, so he should not take anyone lightly. You are one of mine, so I will not let anyone else touch you. If you need to be disciplined, I'll be the one to do so. The fat squad leader hit Han Sen on the back and said, go to your job. Because it was about 3 months until they could reach the planet where the ruins were, Han Sen swapped a few shifts and applied to enter God's sanctuary. This time he teleported to God's sanctuary. He was still in the ice cave. This time, however, there were 7 to 8 people in the ice cave, chatting with each other. Suyu was also there. Han Sen, what took you so long? Here, I will introduce everyone to you. Suyu introduced Han Sen to the rest of the group with enthusiasm. Maybe it was because of the difficult living conditions. Everyone knew the benefit of help each other. The majority of the group were very easygoing and easy to talk to. Genius, you are here as well? The young man suddenly exclaimed at Han Sen. You are? Han Sen regarded the young man and found his face did not ring a bell. My name is Lu Feng. I also graduated from Blackhawk 1 year before you did. But my grades were just average, so it makes sense that you don't know me, Lu Feng smiled and said. What genius? Lu Feng, Han Sen is your schoolmate? Suyu asked in surprise. Lu Feng told the group about Han Sen's needs at Blackhawk. He seemed to have paid a lot of attention to Han Sen and even knew he graduated with the rank of major. The rest of the group looked at Han Sen in surprise. After a long while, Suyu lamented, I did not realize that you are a graduate of a top school and even graduated as a major. You should have a much brighter future than this. This place would make it so difficult for you to go any further. Not necessarily. As long as we occupy that spirit shelter, we will have everything, Han Sen smiled and said. There was teleport device in the spirit shelter, so if they could occupy the place, they could turn that into a human shelter. All they needed to do was to withstand the attacks from creatures nearby. Young man, this is much more difficult than that. This is Second God's Sanctuary, not a military school where kids hang. You can really die here. A middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s curled his lips, squatting in the corner. He then said, Don't think that you are going to conquer everything because you are somebody in a military school. I will give it to you if you hunt any creature back. You don't even need to take the spirit shelter down. Genius, don't pay him any mind. He used to be quite talented and evolved with sacred geno points maxed out, but ended up here and was trapped for nearly 20 years. He did not even have many mutant geno points, so he had lost the will to fight, said Suyu. Han Sen looked to the middle-aged man, surprised. A sacred evolver 20 years ago that was much harder to achieve than a sacred evolver today, and he must be truly something. Even that kind of person became this way, which made Han Sen feel sad. The middle-aged man kept silent squatting in the corner, taking one puff after another from the cigarette in his hand. With so many people here, why don't we go hunting?
Han Sen asked.
We are waiting for Uncle Ching. I told you last time, he was the strongest among us. If we go together with him, it will be safer. Uncle Ching looks after the young. I will introduce you later. You can hunt with us today, right? How come I never saw the girl from the other day? Did she give up? I'm not so sure. Han Sen knew he was talking about Zero. After Han Sen boarded Daphne, he could no longer use his private comlink to contact anyone. So Han Sen had told Zero to enter God's Sanctuary in 2 months to meet him. Han Sen did not expect to be able to enter God's Sanctuary so soon, and he had no way to tell her to come. So he will have to wait until the agreed time. I will walk around myself to get familiar with the environment first. Han Sen walked outside directly, not planning to hunt together with the rest of the group. If he made no efforts, he would not be shared the gains. If he made efforts, it would be very suspicious for someone who just evolved to have his fitness. Therefore, Han Sen decided to hunt on his own, not following the rest of the group. Haven't I told you already? You are not familiar with this place, and it's too dangerous outside. Even if you want to hunt yourself, you should follow us for a few times and go along later. Otherwise, it is truly too dangerous, said Suyu. Yes, genius. This place is very dangerous, Lu Feng also said. Han Sen knew they meant well, but he had his own concerns and did not want to waste time on meaningless stuff. I have already looked it up on the Skynet and learned something about this place. I will just take a walk and be back in a minute. There will be no dangers, Han Sen explained casually. When Suyu was about to say something, the middle-aged man sneered. He is looking forward to being killed. Why are you stopping him? For someone so arrogant, it serves him right to be killed. Han Sen did not pay him any mind, waved to the rest of the group and walked out of the ice cave. The weather was no good this day as well. A snowstorm welcomed Han Sen as he walked out of the cave. Han Sen walked toward the spirit shelter in the storm. With his ability, it should be easy for him to beat mutant creatures and aristocrat spirits. Even if he could not occupy the spirit shelter for now, it would be nice to experience the creatures and spirits in Second God's Sanctuary. When Han Sen was far from the ice cave, he summoned Meowth to run to the mountain. Before long, he suddenly heard a beast roar. A white creature with ice-like armor covering its back was growling at Han Sen and Meowth. Is this the ice-armored beast Suyu was talking about? Han Sen gazed at the creature, which looked a lot like what Suyu had described. As Han Sen was thinking, the ice-armored beast rushed toward Han Sen, growling. Its speed was even faster than the sacred blood beast creatures in First God's Sanctuary. Han Sen stepped back, while Meowth had already thrown itself at the ice-armored beast. Boom boom! The two beasts started to fight in ice and snow. Meowth only had a slight advantage, and it would take a while for Meowth to beat its opponent.
Han Sen frov ned sekretly.
The ice-armored beast was just a primitive creature, but it already had the same strength as Meowth, which was a sacred blood beast from First God's Sanctuary. Indeed, Second God's Sanctuary was not the same thing as the first. Wherever covered by the ice armor on the ice-armored beast, Meowth's claws and teeth could not penetrate. Meowth could only choose the places covered by white fur to attack, making the ice-armored beast all bloody and miserable. Meowth itself also suffered some scratches, which were not serious. Han Sen had a brief understanding about the ability of the ice-armored beast and was ready to kill it himself. However, the ice-armored beast suddenly roared, and all its injuries started to heal quickly. In the meantime, the ice armor also spread to cover all its body. It turned into a crystal statue. Even its claws became transparent. Although it looked the same, the ice-armored beast had a completely different aura. It suddenly turned from an average beast to a super boss. Berserk! Han Sen was both surprised and overjoyed. Unlike First God's Sanctuary, some creatures could enter a berserk state in Second God's Sanctuary. The state was like the hyper-geno-arts that could change the structure of body cells. In the berserk state, the structure of creatures' body cells would change significantly, enhancing the creature's strengths and ability to fight. Of course, if one were able to hunt a creature at the berserk state, the beast's soul gained would also be at the berserk state, which would be much stronger than an average beast of the same level. Han Sen did not expect that the first creature he met in Second God's Sanctuary was a creature that could switch to berserk state. Obviously, the berserk state of the ice-armored beast strengthened its defense significantly. After its whole body was covered with ice armor, even the claws of Meowth could only leave a few shallow marks. The ice-armored beast suddenly became fearless, ignoring Meowth's attacks, going crazy, and trying to devour the pet. Han Sen took Meowth back, because it was no longer the match of the berserk ice-armored beast. In addition, Han Sen wanted to try for himself how strong the berserk beast was. After losing its target Meowth, the ice-armored beast fixed its eyes on Han Senator with a growl. It quickly ran toward Han Sen on all four hooves. When it was 50 feet from Han Sen, it suddenly jumped at him.
Kare ful, Han Sen.
A yelp came from somewhere close. A woman wearing Arctic suit started to run to Han Sen while exclaiming. Han Sen turned to look at the woman and was suddenly dazed, unable to believe his eyes. It turned out that young Monli was here as well. After she evolved, she was also randomly sent to this place. Idiot, what are you looking at? Just run. Young Monli saw that Han Sen turned to look at herself at such a critical moment and became shocked and anxious. If her shout did not save him, but harmed him, then it would be the worst thing ever. Watching the berserk ice-armored beast almost at his face, with its claws reflecting cold light, Han Sen was still staring at young Monli, which made her scared and mad. However, she could not even make it in time if she wanted to save him. At this point, young Monli regretted that she came out directly after hearing Han Sen was here as well. If she did not do that, Han Sen might be able to dodge these attacks. However, he was now doomed. She came much earlier than Han Sen did and knew how strong ice-armored beasts were. In addition, this one was a berserk beast. Even a sacred evolver could not take one blow from a berserk ice-armored beast before having his neck snapped. Watching the ice-armored beast making the attack, young Monli almost wanted to close her eyes. However, the next second, she stared her eyes wide. Han Sen was staring at her blankly, but punched at the incoming berserk beast without even looking at it. The punch ended right in the beast's face. Boom! The berserk ice-armored beast that looked very fierce was blown away like it was a puppet, crushing a huge chunk of iceberg and then sliding on the ice for a dozen feet, plowing deeply in the snow. Blood was everywhere, and the beast stopped moving. Young Monli froze up, staring at Han Sen as if she was looking at the ghost. She did not move for a long while in the storm. Killing a berserk ice-armored beast with one blow, young Monli could not believe that this person was Han Sen, who had just become an evolver. Berserk ice-armored beast killed. Beast soul of berserk ice-armored beast gained. Eat its meat to gain 0 to 10 primitive geno points. Hearing the voice in his mind, Han Sen smiled. A beast soul gained from the first creature he killed in Second God's Sanctuary. This was definitely a good sign. Young Monli, I did not expect you would be here as well. Is there a special squad here? Han Sen did not mind the body of the beast and asked young Monli. Young Monli had just come to herself, looking at Han Sen and the body of the beast, and said, "Before you come, I am the only special squad member. When I just heard you were here, I did not believe it. It turns out you are really in this shithole as well. You know where this is? What is the closest human shelter?"
Han Sen asked.
That was what he really wanted to know. I don't know. I don't even know where in Second God's Sanctuary we are. At least so far, no one was able to walk out of here to find other people. Young Monli shook her head and said, "This place is all right. If there are not a lot of people, no one could steal creatures from us." Han Sen shrugged and walked to the body of the berserk ice-armored beast. "But first you need to." Young Monli was trying to say that you first need to kill the creature, but thinking of Han Sen's punch, she swallowed the rest of her sentence back. Han Sen summoned the golden growler, put the body of the ice-armored beast on its back, and then rode on it himself. He waved to young Monli and asked, "Is there any place nearby that we could hide from the storm? Let's take a break and eat some meat." Young Monli hesitated, but jumped on the golden growler's back, guiding Han Sen to a cave nearby. Han Sen dissected the ice-armored beast's body with the cursed wolf dagger, took out the tools to make fire, and started to barbecue some meat with a beast soul arrow as the skewer. He used a pot for making soup as well. Did he really just evolve? Young Monli was still thinking of the punch Han Sen used to kill the berserk ice-armored beast. As a sacred evolver, she could not achieve that at all. Even she punched the beast 100 times. There was no way she could kill a berserk ice-armored beast, let alone one punch. For in an ordinary ice-armored beast, maybe she could kill it. However, she could never break the armor of a berserk beast. In comparison, Han Sen's punch directly broke the armor together with this goal of the ice-armored beast, which did not look like the strength that belonged to an evolver who had just evolved. "Have you heard of the name Han Jingji?" Han Sen looked at young Monli and asked casually. Hearing the name, young Monli's expression suddenly changed. Although she quickly came back to normal, Han Sen still noticed it. "Which Han Jingji?" Young Monli frowned and asked. "Instructor Han Jingji of Blue Blood Special Force, the Qigong Master," Han Sen replied. "You know about Han Jingji?" Young Monli's expression changed again. She was surprised that Han Sen knew the name Han Jingji. So, she knows about Han Jingji as well. Han Sen thought and said quietly, "My great-grandfather is also named Han Jingji." "What? Instructor Han is your great-grandfather? That is impossible."
Young Monli exclaimed.
What's with the reaction? I only said my great-grandfather's name is Han Jingji, but I did not say he is that instructor of Blue Blood Special Force.
Han Sen smiled at young Monli.
Young Monli suddenly became silent, watching Han Sen while biting her lips. If Han Sen was really the descendant of Han Jingji, it was not strange that he had that kind of power. However, in young Monli's eyes, it was simply impossible, given that Han Jingji did not have any children to begin with. It was just that the fact that Han Sen knew Han Jingji's name and his amazing power made young Monli confused. Initially, young Monli thought Han Sen was just an ordinary guy with some talent and luck, but she did not think that anymore. "Which family are you from?" After a long silence, young Monli could not resist asking. "Which do you think?"
Han Sen looked at young Monli, smiling.
Young Monli suddenly shook her mouth.
Silence fell again. Han Sen handed a meat skewer to young Monli, but young Monli did not reach out her hand. She bit her lip and said, "I did not make any contribution, so this is not mine." Han Sen smiled, put the arrow in her hand and said, "You used to be my subordinate, and I expect you to keep following me. I can't guarantee anything else but food." Young Monli looked at the skewer, wanting to give it back to Han Sen in a dignified way, but her hand did not move. She was looking down on Han Sen in the first place. After Qin Xian left, she gave the position of the head of the special squad to Han Sen instead of Yang, which made young Monli even more upset about Han Sen. Although later on, young Monli realized Han Sen's abilities, as an arrogant lady, she was not willing to bow her head to him. If it was before, young Monli would have thrown the meat back to Han Sen's face on hearing his words, because there was no way that young Monli would willingly take orders from Han Sen. However, after a long time spent in Second God's sanctuary, young Monli had suffered a lot and came to understand how hard it was to hunt anything in this place. If she kept going like this, young Monli could see no hope, and maybe one day, she would give up on herself. Although young Monli did not want to be ordered around by Han Sen's performance made her understand very well how large the gap was between the two of them, which also made her see hope. Young Monli stared at the meat in her hand for a long while and suddenly took a bite. While she was gobbling on the meat, her eyes became wet. Han Sen smiled at young Monli without speaking. When she finished, he handed her another piece of meat. Young Monli did not even look, took the meat and started to eat. After eating 4 pieces meat and drinking a bowl of soup, she then stopped, gritted her teeth, and asked Han Sen, "Tell me, what do you want? Don't act as if I am going to rape you. I just want you to become my subordinate and do some things for me." Han Sen looked at young Monli, not knowing what to say. The look on the woman's face was like some heroine who was going to sacrifice herself for her country. "What can I do?"
Yang Manli paused.
Such an arrogant person like her had lost all her confidence under the harsh reality. There are many things you can do. For example, you could manage the spirit shelter after I conquer it, collect some protection fee, sell some meat, and recruit a couple of people. Han Sen pointed at the spirit shelter on the big mountain. Young Monli could not help saying coldly, "You are ahead of yourself. Don't expect to conquer the spirit shelter just because you could kill a berserk beast. There are at least a dozen mutant creatures and an aristocrat spirit inside the shelter. Do you have any idea what kind of beings they are? Any mutant creature has a fitness level of at least 50, and the stronger ones among them would be 70 or 80. A dozen mutant creatures, coupled with a highly intelligent aristocrat spirit with an equally strong physique. Even if you have already maxed out on ordinary geno points and primitive geno points, there is no way that you will conquer that spirit shelter. Is that right?" Han Sen did not argue with her but said lightly. However, anyone would be able to tell his contempt from his expression, which was what troubled young Monli the most. A bit worked up, she said, "I admit that you are strong, much stronger than I am. However, the comparison of the power is right there. You could not conquer that spirit shelter alone. The best thing to do is to use your ability to kill as many primitive creatures as possible to sell them to others. This way, you could make money and strengthen everyone's ability at the same time. When all of us have maxed out on ordinary geno points and primitive geno points, we can work together to conquer that spirit shelter, which is the only way to go." "You are right, and thinking in the right direction. However, I don't have so much time to waste. That's why I want to conquer that spirit shelter in 1 month, Han Sen said calmly. 1 month? Young Monli stared at Han Sen, as if he was a lunatic. Yes, 1 month, Han Sen nodded and repeated. In fact, he was already being quite conservative. With his current strength, he could totally attack the spirit shelter on his own. Because he had a fitness level of 80-something, no mutant creature could be stronger than him. However, there were a dozen mutant creatures in the spirit shelter. In case there was a berserk mutant creature, it would be quite complicated. In addition, Han Sen had never fought a spirit before, so he did not want to take much risk. Currently, he could scrape by. However, after a month, when Zero was here, it would be a piece of cake to conquer an aristocrat spirit shelter. However, for young Monli, it was unbelievable. In her eyes, Han Sen's words were simply naive, which should not come from a rational adult.
Young Manli kept silent.
She started to regret the choice she made. Following someone who bragged like this made her feel unsafe. Han Sen did not say anything more. He had never tried to persuade young Monli anyway. Nor did he plan to take young Monli together with him to conquer the spirit shelter, which would expose his real abilities. Han Sen only planned to ask young Monli to take care of the shelter after he took it down. After all, he knew her very well and sort of trusted her. In addition, there was no one for him to rely on at this point. Take the remaining meat and go back first. Han Sen ate some barbecued meat, but because the ice-armored beast was too big in size, the meat he ate did not even bring him a single primitive Geno points, so he simply decided to stop eating. Han Sen wanted to kill some smaller creatures, which would give him more thrill of the increase of Geno points. Other creatures might be a stretch, but primitive creatures were very easy to kill for Han Sen. Me, bring this back alone?
Young Monli looked at Han Sen incredulously.
Initially, she thought Han Sen would ask something in return for giving her such benefit. Otherwise, should I ask you to join me to conquer the spirit shelter? Han Sen looked at her with a smile. Young Monli became flushed, squeezing her fists tight without saying a word. Although Han Sen did not say it, she found that she had become a burden, a useless burden. Moreover, it was in front of someone she used to despise, which made young Monli so ashamed that she wished she could disappear in a hole. Wait for me to come back. Han Sen naturally did not understand what she was thinking. In his view, young Monli was someone trustworthy in the shelter, so he simply wanted to get her assistance. He did not have any other thoughts. Han Sen had long forgotten about those things in the past, because young Monli did not really do anything to him. To the contrary, she even taught him archery. Han Sen packed his stuff and waved goodbye to young Monli, walking out of the cave and disappearing in the storm. Watching Han Sen leave, young Monli's expression became complicated. She did not realize until this very moment that each time she saw Han Sen, he was changing. At this point, she could only look up to him. At one time, she used to tell Han Sen to come to Second God's Sanctuary earlier, because this was the true stage. However, she just realized that she was nothing in front of Han Sen despite the fact that she had entered Second God's Sanctuary a lot earlier than he did. All she could be was his subordinate. Han Sen marched toward the big snow mountain where the spirit shelter was located. It would be the best if he could take it down himself. If he was not lucky, he could at least do some hunting and wait for Zero to come. Although the path to the mountain looked straightforward, it actually took a lot of time to reach. When Han Sen had rode on the golden growler for more than half a day, he had not reached the mountain yet. In front of him, there was suddenly a huge ice cliff more than 1,000 feet wide in front of him. Looking down the cliff, Han Sen couldn't see the bottom of it. The deeper it got, the narrower it was. Gradually, it became a black line that looked like the entrance to hell. When Han Sen was about to summon the Golden Rock Worm King to carry him over in the air, he suddenly heard a weird noise from deep down the cliff. Crack, crack. The noise was consistent and rapid, as if someone was chiseling the ice repeatedly. Han Sen looked down the cliff, and the noise became more and more clear. Before long, Han Sen saw what was making the noise. On the ice wall of the cliff, a huge furry white spider quickly climbed up the ice cliff, waving its sickle-like claws. It seemed that it had noticed Han Sen and thought of him as its prey. You could have survived, yet you have to commit suicide here. Let me get rid of you first. Han Sen backed off a little, waiting for the huge spider to climb out from the cliff. Momentarily, the spider had already climbed up. Its body was like a snowball, and its 8 legs were very sharp with white barbs, looking quite scary. Han Sen looked at it carefully and thought it looked like a king crab. He wondered if its meat was as delicious as the crab. Not knowing how strong the spider was, Han Sen summoned the Golden Rock Worm King and commanded it to charge the spider. Although it seemed impressive, the white spider should be just a primitive creature. After a few blows, the Golden Rock Worm King cut the white spider into pieces. Primitive creature Snow Spider killed.
No beast soul gun.
Eat its meat to gain 0 to 10 primitive Geno points. Han Sen was pleased. Although the snow spider was huge as a spider, it was just slightly larger than a basketball. Although its legs were long, Han Sen did not think there was much meat in them, so it was very easy to eat. Looking at the cuts made by the Golden Rock Worm King, Han Sen saw jelly-like transparent meat and couldn't help swallowing. Based on his years of experience, this was the best kind of meat, tasty and sweet. As Han Sen was about to collect the body of the spider, he quickly felt something was wrong, because the crackling sounds did not disappear, but became more rapid. Han Sen looked up and saw that waves of snow spiders were coming out of the ice cliff like an avalanche. Han Sen was not afraid of these snow spiders at all. No matter how many they were, they could only make his meal better. However, when Han Sen was about to take action, he suddenly saw a white leg as thick as a utility pole dotted with foot-long barbs reaching above, followed by a few spider legs equally huge. Han Sen almost jumped on the back of Golden Rockworm King without thinking, rising in the air on the back of his pet. Looking down, he saw a giant snow spider coming out of the ice cliff. It was so big in size that it could probably swallow a man with one bite. Han Sen did not know whether the huge spider was a mutant creature or a sacred blood creature. He would not be afraid of a mutant creature, but a sacred blood creature might pose a challenge. When Han Sen was observing the giant snow spider, it suddenly opened its mouth. A white rope as thick as a baby's arm flew at Han Sen and the Golden Rockworm King. Damn it! Run! Han Sen wanted to order the Golden Rockworm King to fly higher, but it was too late already. The white robe had already caught one of the Golden Rockworm King's claws. The Golden Rockworm King quickly tried to cut the rope with its other claws. However, its sharp claws turned out to be glued together by the white rope. The snow spider tugged on the white robe hard. Although it was quickly flapping its four wings, the Golden Rockworm King could not resist the strength of the spider and was pulled down toward the spider by the white robe. Sacred blood creature. Han Sen was shocked. He did not have the ability to kill a sacred blood creature yet. It was unnecessary to risk his life. Seeing that he was about to be dragged toward the spider together with the Golden Rockworm King, Han Sen no longer dared to hesitate and summoned the desert bird and cursed wolf dagger. The desert bird flapped its wings and turned into a red and golden firebird, hovering over Han Sen's head, giving the cursed wolf dagger and Golden Rockworm King a golden red glow. With the effect of the aura from the desert bird, the Golden Rockworm King's wings became stronger. Flapping its wings hard, it was trying to get rid of the spider's tugging. However, strength like that was obviously not enough. The Golden Rockworm King was still dragged toward the mouth of the spider, only at a lower speed. Han Sen was standing on the back of the Golden Rockworm King and quickly shapeshifted into the Fairy Queen, using Heresy Mantra and Overload at the same time. His entire body was filled with incredible strength all of a sudden, his muscles shaking and heart pounding. Cut! Han Sen slashed the cursed wolf dagger at the white rope. He felt that the dagger was stuck in something stiff and sticky, but he could not let go at this point. So, he had to make the slash even harder. The white robe was deformed significantly and broke eventually. The broken rope bounced back to the mouth of the giant snow spider. Han Sen quickly took back the Golden Rockworm King that had just regained its freedom, landed on the snow, and quickly ran away. Sacred blood creatures should have a fitness index at least above 80. Many sacred blood creatures even had a fitness level above 100. This giant snow spider clearly had surpassed 80. Han Sen did not want to take the risks himself. Even if he wanted to kill it, he should wait for Zero to come. Seeing Han Sen was running away, the giant snow spider opened its mouth again, and another white shadow came at Han Sen. Han Sen was nimble enough to dodge the white rope and quickly ran forward. Snow spiders chased after him like an avalanche. The giant snow spider was especially fast, coming forward 100 feet with each move. Han Sen could not outrun it with all he got. In addition, the giant snow spider was constantly spitting spider silk at him, which Han Sen had to dodge as well. When stuck, he would be in trouble. Gradually, the primitive snow spiders could no longer catch up with them. Only the giant snow spider was still chasing after Han Sen. Didn't they say there were only an aristocrat spirit and a dozen mutant creatures in the spirit shelter? How come there is a sacred blood spider? Han Sen felt quite upset. However, it was normal when he thought about it. The aristocrat spirit couldn't not control a sacred blood creature, so it was only natural that the giant snow spider was running wild. Han Sen could not get rid of the giant snow spider. After running for a while, there was no way to go anymore. Cliffs were everywhere. Han Sen wanted to summon the Golden Rockworm King to carry him over, but he suddenly heard a shrill bird song from under the cliff. With sounds of flapping, a giant black-feathered bird as dark as ink flew up from the cliff, its wings 100 feet across. *T. God, you don't need to play with me like this. Can we be friends or not? Birds were the type of creatures that Han Sen feared the most. Back in the days, he was almost killed by a silver bird and had to escape by jumping into a river. Running into a huge bird again, Han Sen felt ominous. Indeed, the black bird immediately threw itself at Han Sen after coming up. Its speed was like a black tornado, fast and fierce and scary. Even if he were thinking with his butts, Han Sen would know this was a sacred blood creature, given the bird dared to snatch food from the giant snow spider. Judging by the speed of the black birds, Han Sen knew it must be something extraordinary. Lamenting his bad luck, Han Sen had no way to go with the giant snow spider chasing him in the back and the black bird blocking the road in the front. If he were to summon the golden rock worm king to carry him into the air at this point, he would be feeding himself to the blackbird. No matter how fast the golden rock worm king was, there was no way it could be faster than this sacred blood creature. Han Sen decided not to escape. After shape-shifting into the fairy queen, his golden pupils started to sparkle, taking in every move of the giant snow spider and blackbird. The moment when the blackbird dashed down, Han Sen quickly moved away from its claws. As the spider silk was thrown at Han Sen, he managed to dodge it as well. Han Sen did not go back, but moved forward at the giant snow spider. The 8 sickle-like spider legs quickly crisscrossed, trying to split Han Sen, who was under the spider's belly, apart. Han Sen was calm, his heart pounding and legs unleashing unbelievable strength, moving up and down the 8 spider legs, dodging all the attacks. The black bird tweeted and clawed at Han Sen again. With the spider and bird hunting Han Sen together, he had no way to escape.